Mike Purcer here, and this is the fifth and final video in this rigging efficiency series. In the previous 4 sessions, we have discussed how to use video to measure blade slip, drive time, stroke position, stroke ratio, and stroke rate. This video will discuss how we analyze the data and options to adjust the rigger and oar. Remember, effective rigging is adjusting the boat, rigger, and oar to provide the athlete with comfort and biomechanical efficiency. It is finding the optimal leverage to maximize the acceleration and boat movement on the drive phase of the stroke within the time limits that allow ideal rhythm and maximize crew race potential. Know the strengths and weaknesses of your crew, how they train, what you expect from them in a race related to rate and speed. Some of your considerations related to rigging adjustments will be, is this a tall crew with a naturally long stroke length? Are they strong athletes, big ergs, good weight lifters? Do they have good endurance at high rate? Does the crew tend to race at high rate of stroke? Are they technically skilled and speed skilled? This slide details sample measurements extracted from video of a U23 women's lightweight single sculler. First step is to ask, does the data make sense? Was the stroke rate appropriate? Is the stroke ratio within normal range? Is the drive time typical for the boat class? Is the blade slip within acceptable limits? Is the stroke position within limits? Next, we look at the stroke rate and ratio together to determine that the stroke is typical for racing. Here we see the stroke rate at 32.1 strokes per minute, slightly lower than normal, and ratio is 1.38, slightly higher than normal. And it would appear this is a typical stroke for this sculler. Next, we look at the drive time. Does it relate to the stroke rate and the stroke ratio? Is it typical of past measurements of drive times? Typically, lower drive times often match with higher stroke rates and vice versa. Typical drive time for a woman's lightweight single is 0.8 seconds, according to Notes on Rowing Rigging Book, 2014 edition. Times within 0.04 seconds of typical are considered normal. Drive time is a function of the rigging load and the stroke length. Here is where we start to discuss the adjustments that need to be made. Drive times substantially lower than typical. For example, a drive time here of 0.72 seconds would suggest an increase in the rigging load is required. Increasing the load would include lengthening the outboard, reducing the span or spread, or using an oar with a greater blade area size. What you change depends on the crew. An exceptionally strong athlete might benefit from a reduced span. A taller, longer athlete might benefit from increased outboard. Both adjustments increase the load and length and will increase the drive time. Conversely, in another example, a drive time of 0.9 seconds or above would require a decrease in load. Reducing outboard length or increasing the span would both allow the athlete to get through the water quicker and reduce the drive time. Also remember that the blade area size is a factor of load. The larger the area, the greater the resistance and load. Look at the blade slip measurement and determine effectiveness. Blade slip for sculling should be greater than 0.15 meters. For sweep should be greater than negative 0.25 meters. The two causes of poor connection: 1, stroke position, not having enough of the stroke before the pin, and 2, the rigging load. The load is too light for the power applied, and the blade is being pulled through the water and not acting as a fulcrum. For example, a blade slip of negative 0.19 meters does not appear effective, and we must look at the stroke position and/or the rigging load for analysis. In this example, we see that the stroke position is 60%. This means 60% of the time the blade is in the water is before the oar reaches a point perpendicular to the boat. Typically, 2/3, or 66% of the time the blades are in the water, is before the oar reaches perpendicular. In this example, we would move the athlete's footstops towards the stern to increase the catch length and the stroke position. Please remember that rigging cannot make up for poor blade work or poor rowing technique, and this rigging efficiency series has been for advanced level crews. This has been a very short presentation, but I hope it has given you some ideas for moving forward with your rigging adjustments. By the way, this analysis was taken from a lightweight woman sculler that finished third at the World Championships. If you thought this video was useful, please like it below and visit my Rowing Perseverance Facebook page for more coaching development tips. Also, stay tuned for my next series of videos called Analyzing Rowing Technique Using Boat Speed Curves.